June the 23rd, solstice. The summer solstice has now arrived. Day and night are now of equal length. This marks a major turn in the natural history year. The days approaching the solstice and the solstice itself are among the most memorable of the year, especially if there is fine weather, clear skies, and perhaps a strawberry moon. Beetles. Beetles are a remarkably diverse group of insects, and fortunately for the field naturalists, can be found active somewhere on every single day of the year. London has an astonishing array of them, with 2,000 different species to be found in Windsor Great Park alone. This is half of the British species list. Even on Esher Common, over 1,000 different beetles have been recorded, and on Wimbledon Common, 40 nationally rare beetles. The range of habitats they exist in is so diverse you can almost expect to find beetles wherever you go. The obvious places such as woods, meadows, heaths, downs, marshes, lakes, rivers and ponds all have their own particular specialities. However, some beetles show a preference for more unusual habitats such as rotting wood, holes in trees, underbark, in moss, lichens or field crops carrying mould, vegetable gardens, compost heaps, and less popular species in various foodstuffs, fur, carpet, and furniture. As a group, they are often instantly recognizable due to their often cylindrical shape, elongated bodies, and variously colored wing cases. However, individual types often have typical features which can help in their field identification. For example, rove beetles tend to have long tails, weevils have their snouts, long horns their long antennae, water beetles large swimming legs, jewel beetles metallic colours, stag beetles horns, dung beetles clubbed antennae, clip beetles their ability to jump, and of course ladybirds their colourful wing cases. Others can be a lot more difficult to both find and identify due to them being either tiny or living underground in wood, plant stems, or bird and mammal nests, even mole nests. Ground beetles, Carabidae, are probably the most often encountered when they are noticed running across our paths or emerging from under a stone that we have disturbed. 2/3 of all our British ground beetles have been recorded from Buckham Common and over 100 from Wimbledon Common, including the very rare Harpalus griseus. They are often large, move fast, and have a metallic sheen. The violet ground beetle, Carabus violaceus, is regarded by many as the most beautiful of all our beetles. It has bright violet markings at the edge of its thorax and wing cases with bronze and green tints. It is found in mixed woodland where it likes to feed on slugs. Dung beetles are often stout-bodied black beetles with clubbed antennae and grooved wing cases. The door beetle, Geotrupes stercorarius, is probably the most familiar, usually being found where there are cowpats. Door means drone, referring to the noise they make when they fly at dusk. This they do more than other beetles, as well as often hitting objects. In the past, they had several names including Dumbledores and clock beetles. When viewed more closely, they are often carrying small, scurrying parasitic mites. Other smaller dung beetles spend most of their time underneath the cowpats, where they excavate burrows up to 1/2 meter in length. Inside these burrows, they collect the dung on which their larvae feed. The three-horned Minotaur beetle, Typhaeus typhoeus, is one impressive species that can be found on Wimbledon Common. It uses its 3 horns to rut with other males over females. It prefers sandy areas where there are many rabbits. In these areas, it will be feeding its young with rabbit dung down small burrows with noticeably circular entrances. Wherever there are substantial amounts of dung, it is likely dung beetles are not far away. Where there are corpses, for example dead fledglings, carrion beetles can sometimes be found. They lay their eggs on dead carcasses, and their larvae then eat the corpse. Most are black or brown, but some have striking orange-red markings on their wing cases. The 4-spot carrion beetle, Dendroxina maculata, is easier to identify than most and can be found in Epping Forest, where, as an adult, it goes on to eat the caterpillars of the green oak roller moths. Rove beetles, Staphylidae, tend to be long brown or black beetles that get noticed because when they're disturbed they raise their tails in a challenging manner. The most famous is the devil's coach horse or cocktail, Staph Elinus olens. It was thought this formidable beetle could kill on sight and also deliver a curse at the moment it raised its tail. Other rove beetles emit a noxious liquid near their anus, while many others just bite. Except for the devil's coach horse, which is 25 millimeters long, they tend to be smaller, between 1 and 4 millimeters in length. They are usually found near decaying material, where they will be feeding on fly larvae. Other beetles are associated with ants, and yet others again with fungi. Tiger beetles, Cicendula species, which are often brightly coloured, are usually seen running across the surface of sandy heaths. For example, Oxshott Heath in open sunny situations. These are large, often metallic green beetles that have dangerous-looking mandibles and are famous for the speed at which they run. This can be as fast as a metre a second, and size for size, this is faster than a cheetah. They used to be called sparklers or earth gluttons. Surprisingly, a quarter of all British beetles are weevils, although with most being so small and secretive, we rarely see them. They are all vegetarians and many are highly destructive to crops. No part of the plant seems to be out of bounds, including petals, bark, fruit, seeds, and roots. It is often in seeds or grain that we first encounter them. They usually make little attempt to escape, just tending to drop to the ground, where they then become quite hard to find. It is usually their long, distinct snouts and antennae that look a little like television aerials that allow us to identify them. At the end of these snouts, which often curve downwards, there are jaws which are used to bore holes into plants, into which they often then lay their eggs. On the whole, they tend to be grey or brown, but occasionally have bright-coloured metallic scales, which often rub off easily, revealing a black beetle underneath. Acorn weevils, Cuculio glandum, 6 millimeters, can be found on oak trees. They pierce young acorns with their jaws, and then lay an egg inside. The larvae then feeds off the inner seed leaves before boring out and pupating in the soil, perhaps when the acorn falls. A similar species, Cuculio nucum, attacks hazelnuts, and Cuculio pyroceras prefers to lay its eggs in oak galls. One of the largest weevils to be found in London is the red-legged weevil, Oteorhynchus clavipes, 11 millimeters, which is a pest in garden on strawberries. Weevils in the genus Phyllobius tend to be more colourful. The glaucous leaf weevil, Phyllobius calcaratus, 10 millimeters, can be found either light or dark green, golden grey, or even emerald in colour. It lives on fruit trees where its presence may be indicated by small holes in the petals. Phyllobius pomaceus, 8 millimeters, which prefers to feed on nettles, can either be bluish in colour or a metallic green, or without gold or copper tints, or with or without gold or copper tints. Weevils often have a particular plant they prefer to feed on, which can make them a little easier to find. Anthinomus pedicularis, 4 millimeters, is an orange or red-brown weevil that prefers hawthorn. Pseudorhynchus ericimi, although small, 2 millimeters, is a handsome green iridescent species that is often found on shepherd's purse. Several weevils like living on figwoods, of which Sionis scrofularii, 5 millimeters, is probably the most common. Among the raised lines on its back, it has a large black noticeable dot. Other more unusual species include the red oak roller and various fungal weevils, some of which look like bird droppings. The red oak roller, Atelabus nitens, 5 millimeters, is bright red and lays its eggs on oak leaves before rolling over the edges of the leaf to protect them. Platystomus albinus, 8 millimeters, is often found in the fungus called King Alfred's cakes, where it could easily be confused for a bird dropping. All the species mentioned can be found in London, but at this time of year, to find weevils, it is just better to sweep favoured food plants such as oak, hazel, hawthorn, nettles, and mints.